Okay, I will call the regular scheduled council meeting of the city of Revelstoke for July the 28th to order. And with that, I'm looking for a motion to adopt the agenda. Any additions, deletions? There are two additions in your new packages. Councilor Wilson.
Under old business, just to bring back the 2013, 2015 goals and objectives.
So you're thinking reviewing the whole thing at this time, or?
Just bringing it back for review and discussion.
Any further? Question then on the motion as deleted, or as amended? Adoption of the minutes of the regular council meeting of July the 8th. Discussion, all in favor? Passes. Announcements. I don't have any per se, but I would like to ponder or think about the traffic accident that occurred this morning. There was a semi went off the road and flipped at the entrance to Mount Revelstoke National Park. In itself, semis go off the road here on a very, very regular basis. But this had potential to be one of our worst nightmares because you have fertilizer and diesel fuel and fire. And the word Amex comes to mind real quick. It's very explosive. So I congratulate our emergency response people for their timely controlling of this situation. This is one of those truck accidents that had tremendous potential. So again, my appreciations to the fire department and police department for very quick actions on this one. Thank you. With that, delegations, we have two. The first one is the Columbia Shuswap Invasive Species Society, and we have Robin Hooper. Robin, please.
Hello, and thank you for having me. My name is Robin Hooper. I work with the Columbia Shuswap Invasive Species Society. So in 10 minutes, I'm going to try and keep this quick and to the point. It's basically an informational presentation about who we are and what we do. So we're a network of partners who facilitate the prevention, reduction, and management of invasive species through collaboration, engagement, and education. So we have a number of stakeholders involved. Previously, this was controlled by the regional district under a noxious weed program, which ended a few years ago. And in November 2013, the regional district board decided to dissolve that noxious weed committee and support this non-profit society model. So CSIS, the Columbia Shuswap Invasive Species Society, was established in April 2013 after consultation with a number of land and resource managers throughout the region. So this region is quite large. It goes from Sorrento to Field. It's quite a large regional district, as you know. So here we are, number 12 in the province. And we follow a model that other regional invasive species societies follow. And here's our region, as I said, from Sorrento to Field. Quite a large regional district, so it's broken up into 3 different invasive plant management areas. And our purposes are to educate and engage public, private landowners, land and aquatic managers, First Nations, and others about invasive species and their impacts, and to establish and operate invasive species management programs into the future. I'm going to go through a number of goals. So first of all, to implement a collaborative and coordinated program, we engaged a number of stakeholders, as I said, including the city of Revelstoke. We have Darren, I'm not going to say his last name correctly, on our board, as well as a number of 21 organizations and groups involved in 2013. We also have a number of local partnerships. So this summer we had a number of community weed pools, native weed vegetation along the green belt. I've had outreach events with the NCS, their Garden Guru, and the Junior Naturalists, as well as we've had training programs and education programs for those interested. As part of this, we've also created an operational strategic plan for the regional district. And we are focused on being a one-stop shop for invasive, so people can call our toll-free number and visit our website to get in touch with us about invasive plants. Number 2 of our goals is to educate and engage and inspire residents. I've said this several times, this education component is huge because getting people involved right off the bat when new species come to the area is really important. So those weed polls and info booths and things like that. So far this year, this is not up to date, I've engaged over 1,000 different people in the region with outreach events. We have news coverages through the local media, website, as I said, social media with Facebook, and it takes us to this idea that the goal is to prevent introduction of new invasive species. There's some that have taken over, but with the new invasive species, if we get to that education component and get rid of them right away, we can really save money and economics in the long term. So we have signs all over the place. We work with the regional district landfills to get vouchers for their disposal. Safe disposal is in the landfill. And then we partner with the provincial program, the Invasive Species Council of BC, to deliver programs such as PlantWise and Clean Drain Dry programs for aquatic invasive species. And this idea is to maximize that probability of detection and eradication of the new invaders. And there's a Report a Weed app or a program for those of you that just are new at learning. You can report a weed online. And we ourselves do more technical scientific data entry of plants into a program called IAP. It's an invasive alien plant program through the province. That way we're able to manage and map out those invasive plants. And as I said, we just hosted a training here in Revelstoke a couple weeks ago. We've got signs down on the Greenbelt. You might have seen this sign, educating people and getting that eradication component right away. And our last goal there is to slow and reverse the spread of existing invasive species and reduce their harmful impacts. There are a number of harmful impacts of invasive species. Environmental impacts on our native biodiversity. They're the second greatest threat to biodiversity worldwide after habitat loss. And they also have social impacts, health impacts, and economically can cost a lot to get rid of. So I also deal with weed complaints. So when there are private owners that do not comply with noxious weeds, under the BC Weed Control Act, they are legally responsible for, private owners are legally responsible for controlling noxious weeds. So last year there were 9 weed complaints and 6 of those complied. And then we have program sustainability through a number of sponsors, and it's looking really great for years to come. Because we're a new organization, last year has been garnering support, and that looks like we're moving forward with a lot of support. And big funding source is the regional district, but also the Columbia Basin Trust has just agreed for another 3-year funding agreement with them as well. And that's basically all I have to say. If you have any questions, we really appreciate the city of Revelstoke's partnering with us through our board members and then just engaging in our education and outreach programs. So if you have any questions, we'll chat.
Councilors?
When is your weed pull plan for?
We had weed pulls back in June, so we want to start early usually with weed pulls because that's when the plants are flowering. So every June, I think we'll be engaging community with weed pulls. We had a couple.
Okay, thank you. How critical is the situation in BC?
It depends on
Specifically our area, but
yeah, it depends on which species. And so I think one of the high priority sites or species that's being talked about right now is the zebra and quagga mussels. We really want to prevent the spread of them into our region. In terms of the Okanagan, they have those set of lakes, but into the Shuswap lakes as well. So that's where the Clean Drain Dry program and also getting the border officials responsibility to be able to prevent boats coming in from the U.S. that have those mussels on them. So that would be a huge threat. They say if those mussels got into the Mecca Dam, for instance, it'd be $2 to $3 million a year cleaning the dam because if they would clog the waterways.
I was just trying to get a handle on like how critical this actually is. Like, is it affecting food production anywhere or?
Yeah, definitely. There's a number of invasive species that are problematic in terms of agricultural areas. So common tansy, leafy spurge, ones that can be toxic for livestock. They can ruin the hay. So there's a number of different effects just depending on the plant and the species. And some of them have social impacts as well and can be toxic to human. I don't know if you've heard of the giant hogweed on the coast. There's a number of different plants and they each have different harmful effects. So what we've done in our operational plan is strategize those top priority species for our region. And so we have a number of ones that we're on high alert to keep them out of the region and high alert to eradicate them if those few species that are in the region.
Councilor Johnson.
I was going to ask about things other than plants, but Councilor Vander beat me to that. So, but I do have another question, and you can just perhaps tell me why it makes sense. I recently saw the spraying along the side of the road of, they were these knapweed, I think they were, and yet there was a whole field of knapweed sitting out there, and it just didn't seem to make any sense as to why somebody would be spraying 3 feet off the side of the road and the whole field is sitting out there.
So they were spraying the road but not the field?
Just the border of the road.
Yeah, so it depends on jurisdiction. So side of the road is probably Ministry of Transportation.
It's within the city.
I was within the city. Yeah, so I've spoken with Laurel Corrigan, the manager of the plants, and it actually, I don't know if it was maybe knapweed that they were targeting or something else.
That's what the sign said.
Yeah, it doesn't, okay, yeah, because knapweed is actually also controlled with a bioagent, so a bug, an insect it has been released, so it's a more natural form of control. With that specific issue, I can follow up with her and see what they were doing for sure.
But it's not a criticism, I'm just trying to figure out.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to look into that situation more clearly, but it might have to do with the jurisdiction, as I said. So it could be that that's the town's right of way, but it's the property owner's field. So you control based on your own property.
Councilors, any questions? Thank you, Robin, and thank you for cooperating with the city as you go forward.
Thanks very much for having me.
Our next presentation is the Revelstoke Air Service. John Mark.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Jean-Marc Laflamme, and I am with the Revelstoke Air Service, or called Jump on Flyways out of Calgary. We have been a year in operation out of Calgary. My partner and I, Carrie Knapp, have been living here about 5 years. I've been working successfully here remotely in Revelstoke on a very worthy initiative. In light of today's accident, yet another major disaster on the highway, those are going to increase. That's one thing for sure. So we are here to talk a lot about what we can do to get more air travel happening in Revelstoke. And I do believe that we do have a model here with Jump On. Is anybody familiar with Jump On Flyways? Have you gone to the website? Anyone? Raise your hands. You've gone to the website? Yes? Yeah, okay, super. Couple people. It's a new model. And I'll describe it briefly here, but let me know if there's any questions at all. And then the second thing, you were also handed a 2-pager, and it kind of spoke to the economic impact. Did you all read that? Okay, super. So I'll speak loosely around the facts of economic impact for air travel. But first, Jump On. So first of all, who we are, we're web marketing and travel experts. Both decades of airline experience. I've been in the web now for 15 years. And most of that, 12 years of that in online travel. I worked for Yahoo Travel, Expedia.ca, WestJet.com, and now a few other startups to this one. We've been 1 year of successful flying. We won the Most Innovative Business in Calgary Award by the Calgary Chamber. We're proven and profitable low-cost model by filling aircraft, using marketing tactics, and stimulating destination interest with targeted advertising. That's a mouthful. But what it's to say is that we're using a very powerful channel, which is the internet, to get people to fill these planes. So you make a reservation on an aircraft, and once it hits 80%, then the flight's a go. The vast majority of our flights are going, and this is a way in which we can bring regular air service into Revelstoke. No scheduled airline or charter will come to here in our experience. Safe transportation, economic driver, that's the first page here. Okay, so we've done our homework. We've studied hawk air, powder air, and have advisors on our staff who have flown here. So pilots, senior pilots who have flown here and told us all about the effects of weather, which is the single largest question that most people have. You know, why you can't fly here? the weather is not permitting this. That's not true. We've consulted, as I said, with sources at airlines and charters understand their plans. No local flyers is no major profit. There are weather issues with these traditional scheduled flights. So our model is filling flights and having a backup of a coordinated ground transport. If that is the model that will work, that'll get more planes flying and more visitors happy. It'll get knowledge workers here in Revelstoke and new ones to move in and onwards. So it is indeed a low-cost model. We're not like Powder Air. Powder Air charged $800 for a round trip, primarily catering to heli skiers. That's not our game. Last year we attempted to have a couple of flights, but ran into some early booking and weather issues. These flights were doable, but we didn't have enough time to plan for them. So now we're planning well in advance. Here we are here in the summertime, talking to various partners, seeing what it would take, finding out what flights would be best from which origin and at what times. So as we know, driving is thousands of times riskier than any other activity in Revelstoke. That's the truth. And the truth is that the web is currently saturated with most of that news. Mike will attest on Twitter as it blew up today around that accident. And it does so on a daily basis. So what we see on the web today is a conversation around how hazardous it is to get to Revelstoke. That is the truth. That's what people are talking about, and we need to understand that. On top of this, air travel, like I said, will help propel the knowledge economy, which is a whole huge new business that is the next wave of industry in Canada and the world. Of course, David and Lonnie last year made a motion to support Canadian Air Transportation Service. RMR was a very good, strong partner last year. They did some wonderful advertising for the flights. We were looking for a partnership with the city, organizations, activity operators that will push to establish a new type of Revelstoke hospitality. So, without going into gory detail around web marketing, it's important to understand what we're doing is we're empowering customers to do that marketing. So we use the power of social media for them to share and get more people to jump on these flights. So locals in Revelstoke need to be part of that plan, and all they need to do is share and talk more about it, and we can fill these planes. This is paid marketing. This is also some things that we do. We're using open data, a wealth of data to target specific cities, customers, and real-time reports on those campaigns. So we're using a lot of real-time data on where people are and where they need to go. Of course, like I said, we encourage sharing, operators submitting their numbers and preferred targets. So this is the amount of people that they have coming through during these dates. Then we say, okay, great, we can line up the plane. It's not just haphazardly and saying, okay, let's fly during these days. We're doing a lot of data with operators and understanding what would be best for them and for Revelstoke. So we're coming up with a co-marketing calendar based on volume, creating this intelligence. It's a framework for a community brain, essentially, a community transportation brain. So our service includes, we have a wide variety of aircraft to service weekly or daily flights of 30 to 90 people. You could have a 30 passenger or a 50 passenger Dash 8 to a 90 passenger BA 146, which is 4-jet engine that could totally land here. And we have access in Calgary, Edmonton, and Vancouver to private terminals, ground transport, hotel, food, lift, equipment activities, hosting in conjunction here locally with Revelstoke Mountain Resort and everything Revelstoke. So we're looking to have resort operators, region, city, tourism chamber providing some marketing reach or access to funding to ensure best service levels and to cover the marketing costs of this. So some of the goals and targets, I mean, this is very much a business. We're looking to cover our resource costs. We're a small and nimble team. This is making us very effective in the Canadian market. We've been in big media for a long time because we're a disruptive and unique model. But we're just using it to cover our costs right now and profit a little bit. We're not here to make millions. Of course, we're looking to our partners, Revelstoke Mountain Resort, Revelstoke Accommodation Association, or anyone else, activity operators, to make sure that their goals are being reached. So how many people do they need to fill in these operations? So we're looking to have a cooperative hospitality system that can improve transportation and also upsell opportunities. The basis for some of the low-cost carriers, if you see them in Europe, of course, Ryanair and EasyJet, is to benefit from upsell opportunities. And certainly that's in our model too, working in conjunction with the community. Okay, so with this last year, I did it for free. This year, we need some money. We're looking for 50 to 100K in funding by accredited investors here in British Columbia. We are the first company to seek funds online using a thing called equity crowdfunding. But essentially what we do is sell securities online. You can buy a stake in our company for X amount of dollars for X amount of shares. So as an accredited or eligible investor here in British Columbia, which some of you are, you can put in money to the company, become an owner, and then make the Revelstoke Air Service fly. In Alberta, anyone can give, and that's what we're going after right now. Is these individuals can supply $1,000 to $2,000, and then they become owner and jump on, and they get to speak their voice. So we get a few dollars in the piggy bank for Revelstoke Air Service. We can make this fly, and we can do good business. Marketing is now in the hands of people, part of this new collaborative economy. So we can target and pick new people in business to live and work here instead of just ski bums and getting Revelstoke. So that's the basis for some of the activity that we do with web marketing, but above all, what it does is it will bolster the economy here in Revelstoke. And a case is a prime case, if you read that two-page document, is Jackson Hole. Jackson Hole, same size as Revelstoke, same geographical location, surrounded by national parks, far enough from the big city. But 15 years ago, they decided to invest in an air service. They being the businesses. The businesses, to this day, each sink in $2,000 a year. There's 200 of them that put in $2,000 a year, and they make 92% of the visitors going through Jackson Hole come by air. That equates to $1 billion in revenue to the community and $33 billion in taxes to the city. That's a really big deal for something that's very similar, and we can do the same thing on a slow growth basis with this model. So talk some more details around Jackson Hole if you need, or any other questions related to Jump On. Let me know.
Those are great. That's great.
I'll ask the obvious one, I guess.
Yeah.
How much per person?
How much per person? So the seat
Roughly.
cost. So last year we had $450 return from Calgary. So Calgary is an unique market, as we probably can imagine. It's far enough away, but close. So in your head, for the average consumer, it's like, well, do I spend $450 or do I drive? So that 450 mark, we think it's sufficient. It's good for what we need to do, which is half heli skiers and half regular people. If we're going to fly from Edmonton, it's going to be a little bit more. Revelstoke Mountain Resort would love if we flew from Edmonton. That's a huge market. They definitely don't want to drive here. And then Vancouver, that's our other market. Right now, most of our aircraft is in Calgary. It's a lot more convenient for heli skiers to swoop in, come to Calgary, make the transfer, take the plane to here. So that $450 mark is what we're after. That's all taxes in. We're a completely transparent system. So when you make your reservation on the website, you can see exactly how many seats are booked, and you can get everybody to pitch in. And you know, oh, I got to try and get my 3 friends or my group to come on this flight of 30 to 50 people. Yeah.
When you were talking about Alberta, they're allowed through their securities there
That's
to
right.
make small buys like that. We had a group come to town through Community Futures
Yeah.
talking about that.
Great.
It's not legal in BC.
It's not
as
legal,
yet.
not yet, but we're going through, what we're doing is it's basically a trial process to amend the security laws in each of the provinces. Every single one of the provinces are trying to make subtle amendments to get to what we call equity crowdfunding, right? For British Columbia, as an eligible or accredited investor, you can give whatever. right? And that's the difference, right? But in Alberta, anyone can get, yeah, you're right. And the same thing in other provinces in
So
Ontario.
are you making presentations in Calgary to groups in Calgary?
Yeah, for sure. We had a conference recently in Calgary, and yeah, the businesses in Calgary, so yeah,
Good.
yeah, for sure.
Thank you. I'm just curious if you've pitched this to Alan Mason and to the Housing Infrastructure Committee as well?
For sure.
I think it's a really good project, and obviously it's in its infancy, and but every time I see 4 or 5 busloads of people pull up at R1 from Calgary, I gotta wonder if there is a viable market for it. I think there is, and I think going forward that's going to work. So I would be interested to see that happen for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, definitely. Alan's been privy to the model and looking to see where we could potentially get funding beyond just private individuals. At once, as we all know, there was a very large sum on the table back in 2007, and we're not asking for $1 million anymore. So a small amount means a lot when you look at the potential for growth, and Jackson Hole proved it.
Just one other quickly, do you see this starting slow, like maybe 1 day a week or just weekends?
Yeah.
And then expanding from there, or what?
Yeah. Like
How do you see this growing?
One day a week is something that's most palatable, I think, with the community, and I've spoken to about 500 people here. And it's always about, okay, you know, yeah, how often, how much, what's the noise factor? I mean, we can all see when the airport gets busy, what that noise factor is. But honestly, one flight in and out a week is something that people will hardly ever notice. It's something with our team we can manage. Again, you know, you throw $100,000 on the table, things can change. If you want to have a daily flight up there to make this happen, we could do that. I mean, it depends on how eager the various organizations and businesses are, and then how they enjoy the model. Right? It's somewhat different, but with this, then you never have to guess what the price is going to be. This is always the price. When you state it, it's that price. It's not like the other airlines, which are no longer low cost anymore, right? WestJet and Air Canada are full-fledged big airlines. So we've got a low-cost model that operates this way.
So my understanding is it's in essence a charter service that you're providing.
Yeah, it's
which
a new,
avoids a lot of the regulations that would go with a regular scheduled carrier.
exactly.
How many planes did you bring in last year? How many passengers?
So we had 2 scheduled, and both of them didn't go because we just didn't have our organizations together. We had Revelstoke Mountain Resort, our taking and co-marketing activity. They did really well, drove a lot of traffic, but unfortunately we started that process in January. It was kind of dry. If you remember last January, there wasn't any snow flying, so Calgarians were like, oh yeah, I want to go to Revelstoke, but it's not snowing. So it didn't work out. If we have weekly service and we get Calgary or Edmonton and Vancouver committed to the idea, then things change, right? It's when you start throwing in random flights where people are, our customers are used to it, but the critical mass of people that we need to target in Calgary, and believe me, we study enough web data and various sites to understand that Calgary, Alberta, Vancouver, those aren't our big markets. It's not far away in some other land. It's right here in our backyard. And we need to treat them better with more effective transportation service. So to that effect, we were booking really well, but it slowed down through that weather period. And so it didn't succeed, but everything's lined up. We had two Dash 8s that were going to come in, stay for the weekend, and then leave afterwards.
But 0 last year.
0 last year. Well, we've had a pile that have been successful. Calgary, Vancouver, to Las Vegas, to Kelowna, Penticton. We had a big campaign around Penticton in the spring for wine-themed flights. Those went really well, and as you may have heard, we had kicked WestJet in the pants a bit, so now they're flying there, and that's great. Yeah, all good.
So within the clientele that you're going to attract, are they expecting a full-service airport when they land here?
No.
Or they're quite aware of the lack of services?
So, and that's the key here, is open dialogue around what you get and when you get it, right? This is, I mean, yeah, weather can happen, right? So that's why we need a coordinated transportation system. where we need to say, you know what, you can't land in Revelstoke, so we're gonna actually bus you here. We have a full system here working with ground transportation providers to make sure that customers are lined up properly. Now, and that's the communication that happens before. It's not like all of a sudden, oh, you can't fly here. I mean, that's what Powder Air would do, right? They landed in Kelowna, and you're like, oh, wait a second, I'm Kelowna. How am I supposed to go to Revelstoke? Right, so we talk to, or you're coming to Revelstoke, at least you don't have to drive. Now, we're not gonna say that, but in the end, that's what they're thinking. I would rather take a plane from Calgary. I'd rather take a plane from my international flight to Calgary and then fly here and onwards, right? So it is, this whole thing revolves around advanced communication and talking to them about the situation that we have here. We have a small airport, you'll be greeted at the plane, and maybe given some special lay on your neck, I don't know. Something to make it a little bit more fun than the average airline experience on the grounds here in this small terminal. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the
Okay,
presentation.
super, thank you.
Let's move on then to business rising from minutes of the July 18th. Page 1. 2. 1. Correspondence, the letter from Downey Jr.
Your worship, can you refer this to staff? To report that?
That's the motion referred to staff.
I'll second that, your worship.
Mr. Rock. Councilors, question then, all in favor? Thank you. Old business, item A, zoning amendment bylaw number 2047.
Yes, your worship, I'll bring forward zoning amendment bylaw number 2047, that being a bylaw to establish comprehensive development zone 15, CD-15, be adopted today.
Mr. Secretary, Councilor Johnston. Discussion? Question, all in favor? Passes. And the zoning amendment bylaw number 2048.
Yes, your worship, I'll bring forward the zoning amendment bylaw number 2048, be adopted today.
Secretary. Johnston. Discussion? All in favor? Passes. Zoning amendment bylaw number 2051.
Yes, your worship, I'll bring forward the zoning amendment bylaw number 2051, being a bylaw to include vacation rental in certain districts, receive third reading today.
Secretary. Mr. Scarcella.
And your worship, just for clarity for the community, I had talked with Dean Stratton about whether we needed to hear more from the community on this. And we talked about how the time to hear from the community is when people will come in for their rezoning. And if it's a specific neighborhood, if there's a need, then we would perhaps hold an evening meeting, depending on the neighborhood's concerns.
On each individual application.
Yes, at that time,
And dealt with it at that time.
yes.
Mr. Stratton, anything to add?
Your worship, as noted, it is a rezoning application in order to get the use on a property. So council will be receiving a rezoning application for a specific property. As part of that process, a public hearing would be scheduled, as I indicated to Councilor Nixon. There is the opportunity if council receives significant impact or input, or there is a perceived impact in the neighborhood to schedule a second public hearing for the evening if significant input is received. And each application in this format is good because each one's reviewed on its own merits.
So while open and transparent, knowing the number in town, it's going to be quite a workload for staff and council. Councilor, any further? Councilor Scarcella?
Thank you, Richard. My question is, how much to say the neighborhood has an application? Like, if the neighborhood turn it down, is that final?
No, the ultimate decision sits at the council table. You listen to the input from the neighborhood, but ultimately the decisions are made at this table.
I understand that, Richard, but the neighborhood should have like, if it's 100% against it, should have some, should council listen to them? That's what, but if it never vote 100% against it, the council vote for, what's going to happen with that?
It's not, council's bound to listen to any input that they get at any hearing and consider it in their decision-making process as they go forward.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm just looking through the public comments, and perhaps staff can answer my question, but I wonder if it would be possible, not necessarily in the bylaw, but perhaps by policy, to develop a sort of a set of things that council should consider, not necessarily tying council's hands on making the decision, but for example, I look at the concerns of the hoteliers and the concerns that Councilor Scarcella mentioned and that sort of thing. And it would just be some sort of guidance, so there's some idea of consistency. Again, it doesn't tie council's hands, but you should consider the impact that this would have on the neighbors. I mean, these are all things that council theoretically is going to be considering in their mind anyway. But to have this actually written down, so you have a little bit of a checklist for basic things that you should look at, and then go from there. And, you know, perhaps staff, when they prepare the report, are going to do that anyway. But it would address a lot of, I think, a lot of the concerns that people have expressed in the public process.
Okay, so staff have noted that. Are you suggesting a policy revision at this time, or are you?
No, I'm not suggesting any change at this time. I'm just saying as we develop in this, and it sounds like things are going to be looked at as we go along, that this would be part of the process that we could develop as part of that process.
Best practices, basically.
Yeah.
Councilor Nixon, did you have it?
No, just I agree with Councilor Johnson that we'll have to probably have a checklist so the perception and the documentation is perceived as fair for both the client and the neighborhood.
Yeah, very much so. Okay, councilors, the question then, all in favor? Opposed? Passes. Election and assent voting bylaw number 2053.
I would move, Your Worship, that the election and assent voting bylaw number 2053 be adopted.
Seconder, Councilor Nixon. Discussion? Question then, all in favor? Passes. And Councilor Nixon, you had the 2014-15 objectives review?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a motion for staff to bring that back to council for information and review. It's been a while since we had our workshop. And, to make sure that we're happy with what's written down as goals and the objectives.
I'd second that, Your Worship. Excellent idea.
Councilor Murdoch seconds. So let me question then, is it a review and alteration of it, or just a review of performance to date?
I'm not asking for a review to date of performance, it's just to make sure as councilors that we're all happy with that direction.
Okay.
So, Mr. Worship, do we see this happening in a regular council meeting or in another mini council get-together, or how would we do that? That's my question.
You know, we did talk about having a workshop to look at core services. And we haven't had that. It could be covered off there.
I'm trying to wrap my head around it in the sense that it becomes part of the budget process, and it will throw off the budget process and timing as we go forward with it. So clarity as to the intent of the motion would assist staff in being able to bring something forward with it. So simply start reviewing it, would have to have a process or a workshop format, maybe outside of a council meeting or especially dedicated council meeting, to ensure that we have the time necessary to review those goals and objectives.
Well, I'm wondering how we're tying our goals and objectives in with the integrated community sustainability plan. Because I know there's been some really good movement on quite a bit of that high level action, so maybe I am looking for a performance report on which of the very high priority action items that the community plan would ask for and where we've moved on it. And I don't want detail, I just want to know that they've been noted by staff and looked at. Some will just say in progress.
Your worship, I think that staff can provide, bring this back to the next council meeting and provide an update as where we are progressing on the goals and objectives. That all of the senior staff have built into their work plans a relationship to the goals and objectives to make sure that they're in harmony with council's direction. And they also have put in corresponding components to the ICSP.
Yes,
And there
I've
is
seen
some
some good reports that have included that.
So we can provide a progress report of sorts, not necessarily a full dashboard, but a progress report of sorts.
So that could provide the links going forward. So I've heard two different things here. Can I get the motion reread, please?
The staff bring the 2014-2015 goals and objectives back to council for information and to provide a progress report at the next council meeting.
Is that-
That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank
That's
you.
okay with
Thank
second.
you, Cindy.
Your worship. Please.
Thanks. The point is that after a while you lose track, and I don't think it's fair to piecemeal these at a council meeting and put Mr. Palmer, Mr. Strachan, or Mr. Thomas on the spot. So if we recount what we've done in the last 6 months, if we're falling down, then we've got to pick up our socks. It probably wouldn't happen at a council meeting, but Mr. Palmer could arrange that and we could review those things. So, you know, we go off in our various and sundry committees and sometimes we lose track of what we've done, the good things. And that filters back in the community, so we need to know what we're doing well. That's why I'm seconding the motion.
It just provides that clarity of direction.
And the early adoption of the budget, I think, really helped the staff move forward.
With any luck, we'll find that we've made some really good progress. So is the motion clear? Question, all in favor? Passes, thank you. Let's move on to new business. This is Columbia Basin Trust Employment Policy Letter.
Your worship, the Social Development Committee made the following recommendation to council in a meeting in June 2014, that related to Columbia Basin Trust request CBT set up satellite office Revelstoke, and or they make previous to allow Revelstoke residents to work in for CBT from Revelstoke. And the background is 4.1. Currently, most of the job posting for CBT primary position require that the applicant work from one existing CBT office, which are located in Castleton, and Revelstoke. And that's why we recommend the satellite office Revelstoke.
Second, Councilor Bender. Further discussion, councilors? Councilor Johnston?
It appears that we've asked for this before, and I'm just wondering if staff can tell us what the response was or the reason given in the past.
Mr. Mason? Before I do that, I should point out that I also sit on the board of the Columbia Basin Trust, but I do not see this as being a conflict of interest, so I'll stand with chair.
Yeah, I think since the initiation of CBT, Revelstoke, different councils over the years have lobbied to try and get an office here, and we've always been told that it doesn't fit in with CBT's plans. So I know we've asked on several occasions. I think previous councils have also written to the trust, I think, asking for that. This issue, though, of permanent jobs with CBT having to work out at the CBT offices is something that's come up, fairly recently. And I know the committee was quite concerned about it. There have been a number of positions that I think could have been done remotely, but CBT have mandated that you have to, leave the community, which is not a good thing for Revelstoke. I would be surprised if anything changes, but I don't think it hurts to keep reminding CBT that we'd like some better services here.
Councilor Johnston?
With that in mind, and I'm sure staff will deal with it accordingly, that we just don't do the same letter that we did before, but we put a new spin on it, so when CBT gets it, they don't just say, oh, there's Revelstoke asking for the same old thing again and throw it in the round pile. So it sounds like the remote working thing is one option that certainly is a little bit different than the past, that we might hope for some success.
Any further councilors? Any question then? All in favor? Passes, thank you. Don't see any opposed. And the BB Vintage Car Club 2014 grant need. Mr. Bennett?
Yes, Your Worship, I move that the grant in aid of $1,500 awarded to the Revelstoke Vintage Car Club for 2014 be withdrawn. And be withdrawn, the main reason being they showed a profit without the help that they may have required from the city.
Your seconder?
I'll second that, Your Worship.
Discussion? Councilor Wilson?
Just kudos to the club. They
Mhm.
ran a very good weekend and they made a good profit.
Has this been discussed with the club, or is it going to be a surprise? Councilor Rook?
I was lucky enough to have dinner with the treasurer last night, Your Worship, and ran it by her. She's not speaking for the club, but she understands where council's coming from and that. So I think it'll be fine.
Okay. Councilor Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. This may just be a good time to remind that that is the deal with all grants and aid from the city. If they don't need the help, then it is sent back.
Somebody else may. Councilors, any further questions? Councilor Christie?
Yeah, thank you, Bishop. Should, before we pass this, should be the club consulted first? For public relation? Is that, it's not right that the send a letter that this all your finance and give you a grant anymore. I think that's the
Mr. Ingles and Councilor Bennett.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to let council know that when the club was notified of their grant, they were notified that it was provisional, based on whether they actually were going to make a surplus or not. So they were made aware of that in accordance with policy.
Councilor Bennett?
Thank you, Mr. Ingles has answered my question.
Councilor Scarcella, did you want to go further?
not to say what I have to say.
Councilor Zen? Any further? Councilor Wheeler?
Just, Your Worship, the motion is be withdrawn, so council's not withdrawing it. We would have to work with the car club and have them withdraw their application. We're not denying it.
Right.
So that answers that question.
Councilors, anything further? Question it, all in favor? Opposed? Opposed? Passes. Treasure challenge fees.
I'll make that, Your Worship, recommendation is that this memorandum be received as information during deliberation.
Deliberation only. Second?
I'll second it.
Councilor Wheeler? Discussion? Councilor Todd?
Your Worship, this is somewhat related to the last one we dealt with here. I believe that this club should be applying for grants and aid for the use of these facilities, just like other clubs do. And if they can show need, then the city can support that. And if not, if there's no need, then there's no need. But up till now, that just hasn't happened with this group. So we can receive this for information, but I would like to see that happen in the future. They apply for grant and aid, and we'll go through the same process, and that keeps it consistent with all the groups in the city, not just having one group singled out that gets special treatment.
Councilors? Seeing none, I'll ask the question. All in favor? Opposed? Passes. Approval of Social Development Coordinator 2014-2015 work plan.
I guess I could make that, Your Worship, and that would be a motion that the 2014-15 work plan for the social development coordinator be approved.
Second, Councilor Wilson. Discussion, Councilor Johnson?
I is there before you, and I think as usual, Mrs. Apparatus has done an update of the plan looking forward, and we'll see good things next year.
Tempted to ask the two questions.
Just, Your Worship, just kudos to Ms. Zacharias for bringing in the ICSP sustainability plan wording into the work plan. Thank you.
That was the first question. The second question. Okay, thank you. Councilors? Any further? The question, all in favor? Opposed? Passes. next one is a Building Canada Fund PowerPoint presentation by Mr. Thomas.
You want a motion first?
So we need a motion and the staff prepare a comprehensive list.
I'll make that motion, your worship, that the staff prepare a comprehensive list for potential new Building Canada Fund projects for council consideration and office.
Seconded by Councilor Mr. Thomas, please.
Your Worship, the new Building Canada Fund has been announced by the federal government, and the provinces are in the process of, determining how those agreements will be distributed with the communities and organisations that will be receiving the funding from that. So, just some details here. It's a 10-year federal government program. There is a $4 billion national infrastructure component, which is for the larger projects, so larger rail, road, port sort of scale of projects. And then there is a $10 billion provincial territorial infrastructure component, of which there's national and regional projects. So again, probably those projects that are going to be funded for Parks Canada, highway upgrades, or ministry transportation upgrades. The one that we're interested in is the Small Communities Fund. So that is exclusively for communities under 100,000 residents. So from the previous slide, there's $9 billion for the national and regional projects and $1 billion for the Small Communities Fund. So it's 10%. What that equates to for BC, it's approximately $109 million over the 10 years that would be eligible for communities under $100,000 in BC. We don't have all of the details from the provincial side of things yet, but it's likely to be a 1/3 federal, provincial, and local government funding. So that $109 million would be matched with a provincial $109 million as well for projects that fall under this Small Communities Fund. Some of the program objectives that must be met, so these projects must have elements that would promote economic growth, clean environment, and stronger communities. In terms of our eligibility to receive funds, we are defined in the program as being eligible as a municipality. But interestingly, private sector bodies, including for-profit organisations and not-for-profit organisations, whose application might be supported by the city, would also be eligible to receive funding under this. Not quite sure what those funding details would look like yet, if it would still be that third. It may actually only be 25% from the federal government on those. Just the details aren't real clear, just trying to read into what's happening. But if council did want to support an application from one of these organisations, it would have to take the form of a resolution from the council. These are the general project categories. In the agenda package, I've included the program details, and it goes into, for each of these, what those expected category criteria would be, in terms of what the project outcomes would have to be. There were a couple of others that didn't really apply to us, I think things like major rail and ports. But I think there'll be others. We certainly have opportunities to look at projects within all of these categories for this funding program. So the next steps, the federal government has to complete the funding agreement with the province. Then the provincial program details will come out to all the municipalities, and then there'll be an application process following that. At this stage, the province has not released any details of this. So the information that I've got for this presentation and the attachment in the agenda has all come from the federal government's website. So our next steps, we should determine what our eligible projects are, and that certainly speaks to the motion that's on the table. One of the things that I've looked at with this is it's a 10-year program, so I think we should have a strategy for how we're going to approach these applications over that 10 years, whether we're looking for one big project or several smaller projects, and how we strategize that in terms of our relationships with the province and various ministries. And then, how do we prioritize these projects? So I think that these are just some of the thoughts that I had. So what's the likelihood of the application success based on the program criteria? The estimated cost of those projects, because it is a pretty limited sum of money for the community. It's $109 million over 10 years from the federal government, so about $220 million in external funding for communities under 100,000 residents. Timeframe for completion. So are these projects that we're looking at within 10 years? Certainly it's a longer timeframe than our current 5-year budget process. So we should be looking at projects that have, I guess, community, we should try and leverage this funding for the whole community, not just for a very specific project. And then project readiness, how ready can our projects be? If we want to get onto this funding in the early years of the funding, then we would want to be looking for projects that are ready to go within the next 1 to 2 years. So these are just some of the thoughts there. So certainly, from staff's perspective, we can provide council a list of projects that would meet some of these criteria. Cost estimates for those, again, be fairly high level at this stage, but certainly something that we can give council an idea of where we think we can go.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. So this would tie in then to budget projections and the possible need for borrowing, should those projects not have reserves set aside for them at that time. I know the last time that we had a similar project with both the federal and provincial funding, we still had to come up with a lot of borrowing to achieve the $5 million in projects that we did under that program. So until the province comes through with their part of the bargain and their guidelines for applications, we're simply doing our homework in anticipation. I can tell you that as far as the large national projects go, the province is working with the federal government to look at some highway infrastructure projects under this program that have no commitments at this time. Councilors, corrections, Councilors, Person.
Yeah, thank you, Worship. $20 million in 10 years, so we're talking about $20 million a year for all British Columbia. So we should concentrate on a small project. We can't concentrate like on sewer or water, a big project like that, because there's not enough money for that. Like I said, $20 million for each year for all British Columbia. It's not enough money for that. So we should concentrate on a small project that will have more success.
I could argue with you, but and I think that we want to address it within the priorities that we've got in our infrastructure needs, both sewer, water, and roads, and see where the biggest bang for the buck is going to be, and ensure that we address our highest priorities.
Your Worship, and another thing to note is that that's the maximum funding available. It doesn't mean that that project could be, a larger project, and we may only receive up to that 2/3 funding, but maybe we only receive half of the funding, but it's still a significant benefit to the community to receive any money on a project that has significance for the whole community.
I think the strategic part of that discussion is going to be quite key to our success. So the motion,
Just one more question, and you may have said it, and I wasn't listening. Is there a cap on it per project, or is that something that might show up in the course of the process?
Your Worship, that's something that the province may put in. I know that there has been in the past on some of these funding
that there has been a maximum size of the project. I'm not sure where that's going to go. And I'm not sure of the timing for the province on releasing this information either. There's certainly a few things coming up that might be points in time that the province might choose to release this information. So probably in the next couple of months we'll find out some more.
Okay. It raises an interesting question. Anyway, the question before you is to receive this information. Question? All in favor? Passes. Item F for the attachment snowblower 2014 purchase.
Yes, your worship, I'll bring forward that the city award the tender for a detachable snow blower to Vinmar Equipment Limited for the supply of a new RPM Tech LM220 for $141,880 plus taxes. And in short, it's a new package.
Seconder?
This is in the budget, and it's come in under budget.
Any further to that? Mr. Thomas, Mr. Kalinowski, anything?
Yes, Your Worship. Just to say the importance of this particular piece of machinery is understated, so we will retain the 2009 blower as a backup, and we'll use it on a secondary route. The other one will be put on BC auction for sale. We expect to receive around $15,000 for that blower on BC auction.
So at that price, it has all the options that we're looking for, including lights, whistles, and bells.
It's got it all, Your Worship.
Councilors, anything further? Question? All in favor? Motion passes. Development variance permit 2014 for 205.
Yes, your worship, I'll bring forward that the development variance permit application submitted for the property Lot B, Plan 10511, 1631 Illimisky Road, to vary zoning bylaw number 1264, section 5.628, to permit an accessory garage building to be located in front of and to exceed the height of the principal building be approved, subject to the following condition. The site plan and elevations are to be included with the development variance permit as Schedule A, and that the corporate officer be authorized to issue the development variance permit once the above noted conditions have been satisfied.
Mr. Strachan, please.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Oh, sorry, I said that. Mr. Strachan.
Thank you, Your Worship. As noted, we have a development variance permit for 1631 West City Road. The variance is to, in order to construct an accessory building on the property, and it's going to be used as a garage. You'll note it's connected by a breezeway to the existing house. It's classified as an accessory building, as a separate building from the principal building. Its location in front of the existing house is contrary to the bylaw, which is the requirement of the variance. The second portion of it is a little unusual in the way the zoning bylaw calculates height. So the height of the principal building itself is calculated based on the height of the eaves, which is the lower portion where the gutter line is, and the midpoint between that and the peak of the roof. So they end up being the calculation for the height of the principal building being in the central part of the truss. However, the accessory building is a flat roof building, and therefore the height is calculated all the way to the top. So although the zoning bylaw says that the height of the principal building is higher than the height of the accessory building, as you'll note, the actual peak of the roof will be higher than the accessory building. So just an unusual result of wording from the zoning bylaw that's resulted in that second portion of the variance. Letters were sent out to adjacent neighbors within 100 meters of the property. No responses were received. The applicant did include with their application a letter from the adjacent neighbor supporting their application. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you. Councilors? No hands, no question? All in favor? Passes. Thank you. This is the Cape application for the homecoming spaghetti dinner.
Bring that forward, your worship. Recommendation of the United Church Women's application for a public special event to be approved for Saturday, August 16th, 2014, from 5 to 8 p.m. for 600 Campbell Ave, rec center, subject to stated conditions. And provisions are standard now, but I'll just run through them. $3 million liability insurance for the city of Revelstoke and additional insured. Security plans approved by the RCMP. Designated driver program in place. Proof of serving a rate certificate by the event organizer, and all other forms and approvals as required by the Liquor Commission of BC must be in place.
Councilors? Call the question. All in favor? None opposed? Passes. Thank you. Is that fine? Let's move on to communications, and I'm going to run through these. If there's any issues, please step into them. And, first one is from the Community Housing Corporation, or Housing Society, the minutes of the June the 2nd. Finance Committee minutes of June the 10th. The check requisition report for June. Business license summary for June.
Just note the business licenses are up by 7 licenses.
A total of 944 over the year. Administration and security minutes of June the 19th. The animal control report for June.
I just had a question on that one, your worship, that shows that we made $3,000 year-to-date on neutered animals. And last year, is it $9,000 for the total year, or $9,000 year-to-date? Because otherwise, we only have a third of the animals compared to last year.
Ms. Rose?
Yes, your worship. I spoke to the animal control officer, and he indicated that everything is the same from 2013 to 2014. With the income, what wasn't brought forward was the dog licenses that were sold in 2013 into 2014. So it's around equal, yes. So we'll update that report at the next council meeting.
Councilor, the RCMP mayor's report.
Your worship, June was a busy month, although July is far exceeding it. Things were developing well. However, we've issued quite a few violation tickets with some projects that went on over the month, working in conjunction with traffic services, and we are definitely trying to target the highway to make it safer. As you can see, it is proving itself to be its own entity.
Thank you for a nice report, Sergeant. You were not here earlier, and I did compliment the RCMP and the fire department on the handling of the incident this morning. It was quite a dangerous one, but my compliments to both.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Councilor Bennett?
Your worship, I noticed that in the report, it says a police officer was injured in the line of duty, just concerned as how he's doing.
He's back to work. Everything is fine now.
One thing on that, Your Worship, and thanks to Staff Grabinski, is noting that the members are actually involved in the community and doing things, which I feel is really important. We know they have been and always are. It's nice that you would report that too. So it's something you and I spoke about.
Absolutely.
It's nice to see that.
Issue of community support and cultural development letter. It's regarding the tax assessments for medical marijuana control operations.
Is that a noxious weed, Your Worship?
In some places. But in essence, the assessments will not change the farm status for commercial grow-ops, so we retain our tax for it. And the last one is the Ombudsman's report for April to June. And no issues. That's the end of our agenda. Questions to the press, David?
None today, Your Worship. Thank you.
Thank you. Alex?
I don't have any.
Thank you. Motion to remove the camera pursuant to 9.1 A, I, and K of the community charter. Starling?